Hello guys, my name is Ihor and you are listening to Just Button.
I'm a fool for your love.
Hey guys, welcome back to yet another episode of Just Baate. It feels like forever since I last introduced the podcast
That's
and
true.
started things.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ashwin, you're in the UK now. You've been there for a couple of months. So, firstly, I want to ask you what's that been like? And also, because Ashwin's studying broadcasting journalism, he's been doing a lot of reading of all the things happening in the world.
Yep.
And he's also been doing a lot of reading on the internet. So, Ashwin, how has it been? And like, what is your take on topics around just the politics in the world and the situation around the world?
Yeah, UK has been hectic because, like Praatibh said, I'm studying broadcast journalism, and I mean the course itself is very hectic. And to answer your second question, I don't know, to be honest, because I think I'm having a change in mindset about leaning towards one side all the time because we cover a lot of local news. And so when that happens, so when I read the news in paper, I have a certain opinion. But when we investigate that story and we get a lot of different opinions and two sides of the story, and then I make my own conclusion. So I think I've started to learn from that and to understand that I need to have complete information about something before I actually think about and form an opinion. So yes, Pratap, that's what's been going on.
I think I'll pick up right from where you left off. You talked about how now you form or you look at both sides of a story or how many ever sides there are to a story.
Yeah.
And I feel like in today's day and age, it's so important, especially because of the fact that we have so much information going around.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one such topic that we're going to be talking about today is war. And this is something that's really new for both of us, and especially because we are from a place where we're fortunate enough to not be facing a war in real life. So we just wanted to get that perspective on the podcast as well and to try and understand what it's like for someone who's going through it. So yeah, we're very pleased to have with us Ihor. Thank you so much for taking your time and doing this.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be here.
Now, if I'm not wrong, I think you're from a city called Ternopil in Ukraine.
That is correct, yeah.
Yes. And so we were wondering what it was like growing up. And I know there are about 34, 35 castles in the city itself. And so I wanted to ask you what it was like growing up. Do you have any fond memories while growing up? Yeah. So what was that like?
All right. Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit. So Ternopil is a little city. It's located in the Western Ukraine, right in the heart of Western Ukraine. It's the most Ukrainian city in the country. We have 99% of our people speak Ukrainian only because Ukraine is half people speak Ukrainian, the other half speaks Russian, closer to the Russian border. So the way I grew up in my family, we had the Ukrainian tradition, Ukrainian values, and we've always cherished them. Really happy to hear that you read about the castles. We have many, many castles.
Right.
So during our school time, we would always go on vacations and like school trips, and we would visit different castles. And mostly it's actually ruins. Not many castles have survived the Second World War and the First World War bombardments. And some of them during the Soviet time were used as asylums or prisons by Soviet occupation. So they tried to destroy our history even back then in the Soviet time, especially. So this is basically what they're doing right now, as you can see on the news. Yep. They're trying to target landmarks, specific sites, churches, and so on. Like, for instance, in my town alone, we had a little a cathedral,
right.
which had the largest organ in Eastern Europe, I believe, at the time at least. And Russians decided to blow it up. So they planted C4, the whole thing blew up, and then they built a shopping mall type of thing there. Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, that's kind of strange. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you want to know more about how it was like growing up, and then it was just it was simple. It wasn't easy always, but I wouldn't say I had a bad childhood. I experienced it from different perspectives because I lived all over my city,
Right.
which has 250,000 people. First, I lived in like a more industrial area where you have those typical Soviet buildings, the tall 9-story big, like the maze houses. So as a kid, you would just go around. It's like concrete on concrete, and we would just play football there because when I say football, I mean soccer. So yeah, that's the most popular sport in Ukraine as well, and I think basketball would be the second. So yeah, we would just play football. We spent a lot of time outside. Most of us didn't have computers until we were like in 2008, 9, 10. That's around that time we got
Okay.
computers, yeah. But we did have like cell phones and stuff.
Do you know the game of cricket, or have you played it, or have you watched
I
it?
do know the game of cricket because in Slovakia I had friends from India, and they were telling me about cricket. You guys are big on it, so
Yeah.
I haven't played it. I was invited one time, but I didn't go because I had some other plans. I should have though.
Now that you're in the UK, I think you should get some friends who play cricket and maybe try
Oh
the
yeah,
sport. Yeah.
easily. Yeah, I will definitely try. I
Definitely.
promise
Go
you.
for it.
Beautiful.
Now, Ihor, coming to the second question, you've told us about how you were working in Slovakia for a couple of years, and then you moved to the Dominican Republic. So,
Yeah.
and then after that, you came back to Ukraine.
Yeah.
So, was there a specific reason you decided to come back to Ukraine?
So I'll begin on how I got into Dominican Republic.
Sure,
I wanted
yeah.
to take a
Yeah.
vacation.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided that I will go to Easter Island. It's like a little island off the coast of Chile. Yeah, so I got myself plane tickets and stuff. So I flew all the way to Chile, and they denied me entry because my COVID test was not correct according to them.
okay.
So it was okay for me to board the plane to get all the way to the security. And
Right.
the funniest thing is we were like all in the line waiting to get out into the country. And right where I was like, there was a person in front of me and he was let in to go through. And I was the first person that decided to do extra check. So you were in the line to get another COVID test. But
Right.
since some of us didn't have the correct test, we were denied entry. So I was stuck in an airport for 3 days. And after that,
Whoa.
yeah, they got
That's
me a
long.
ticket back to Spain. And I had a friend, actually my cousin, she lives in Dominican Republic. So I was talking to her because I was close by in Latin America. I was gonna fly there. And she's like, okay, just come to Dominican Republic. I live here. We got everything. It's the same, it's nice and sunny. So I went there for just 2 weeks, but it turned out to be 6 months. where I
Whoa.
lived there. Yeah.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then after 6 months, I just became a bit homesick because when I was in Slovakia, I didn't get a chance to go to Ukraine because of COVID as well. Because Ukraine wasn't in European Union and you needed to have certain tests and all that stuff. And it was very, if I were to come, I would have to isolate. So it was just not worth it. Yeah. So I came back to Ukraine just to see my family, and I spent there half a year, and I applied to be a pilot. And I was accepted for like a commercial airplane.
Congrats on that.
Yeah, congrats on that.
But I couldn't go
that's a
to
lot.
Hungary because the war started. I was supposed to go to Hungary, but they didn't allow us to leave. So I could not become a commercial airplane pilot.
Oh.
Yeah.
What were the first signs that the war is starting and things were going wrong in your city or within the country? What were your first signs of panic?
I will track all the way back to 2014 when the war actually started. So we had a revolution. It was a revolution. Basically, Ukraine always wanted to be part of European Union and NATO. At least most people did. And then our president, who was elected at the time in 2008, was very pro-Russian, and he decided to just say no to that. So people went to protest. It was just like 40 or 50 students protesting in Kiev against his decision to turn away from European Union. But then what they did is they ordered like police to go and beat the students up. So the students had to run away and hide in like churches and other places. And then people saw this, right? And the next day, 300 people show up, then 1,000. So we had a revolution, right? Yeah.
Right.
And after that, Russia took away Crimea and eastern part of Ukraine. They declared war on us in 2014, saying that they were saving the Russian people. But we all know how these referendums went in Ukraine because people were forced to vote with a gun like to their head. Yeah. So that's the first experience. I was 14 at the time, or 15. When this happened, and it was really hard on us because everything in Ukraine became suddenly more expensive, and we had to deal with many issues, and living became hard. So most people from my part of the country, we would have our parents or our family members work abroad and then come back to Ukraine with the money they earned to like support us, because otherwise it was very hard to get by. And regarding your question, how did the whole war thing began, like recently, this invasion? So it was building up towards it, like in the news. And to be honest with you, because my dad, he thought that the war was gonna happen, like this full-on invasion, but I personally didn't believe it. I didn't think that they would just roll into my country with helicopters. Like on the first day, I saw a video of like 150 helicopters flying towards Kiev. They were trying to take it away. And we were panicking really hard on the next day, because this happened on 24th of February. The 25th of February, we were on a train to leave the country. It was me, my mom, and my sister, and my grandma. And since I was male, 18 to 60 years old, we're not allowed to leave. And I don't have any military experience, and I myself am a pacifist. I'm strongly
Right.
against using violence as a means of solution to the conflict. So they turned me away. They threw me out of the train, and they were like, go out, go to the exit. And I said to them out
Okay.
loud in the wagon, war is not an exit, because they were sending me into the war in my head, yeah. And so I came back,
Oh.
and I had to stay for like 6-7 months. And then I realized that it's not getting better. And a lot of things, like we were started losing electricity for
Wait,
hours
so
on
you were
end
living 6-7 months alone by yourself?
with my dad.
Okay, yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah, so we basically recently, when I decided to make my escape, the electricity and the power supply, like water, everything was going out because they were targeting energy infrastructure. So it was getting harder to live every day. So I decided it was time to flee. It was a week before my escape. I was walking home and I heard explosions, like 6 or 7 explosions. I was listening to music, so I'm like, what is this noise? I take out my headphones and I hear the
No.
explosions, and I realized, no, it's just getting scarier and scarier.
I want to go back to 2014 when it initially started. And you talk about how the war initially started, but you also spoke about how you were 14 and 15 years old. Did you understand what was going on? Did you have perspective? Because I feel like now you know a lot that's happened. You know the history of what's happening. But back then, as a 14-year-old, did you know what was going on and why things were going on this way?
So I would say yes and no at the same time, because I was very conscious and aware. Like history was one of my favorite subjects in school, so I had to learn
Yeah, I was
all
actually
about
going to
it.
ask you if,
Yeah. Yeah, so like my father was really interested in all of these things. He still is, obviously, and he was saying that like this sort of conflict is imminent because Russia does not want to give up Ukraine, and Ukraine does not want to have any ties with Russia. So he knew, and me personally, it was like a clash of all the evil against all the good, because we have Western values in my country. We have the same sort of freedoms that we stand for: democracy, liberty, and everything else. But the way that people do things in Russia, it's more of like bribery. It's more of like the Asian way of thinking, and like all the bad things, all the bad aspects. Yeah.
Firstly, because of the fact that I mean, your dad was also very aware of what's happening. In your upbringing itself, were you made conscious of things, and that in a way, were you prepared for something like this being a possibility?
Yes, I was told stories of my family and how we were treated. Like I had my grandpa. It was like early 1900s, I believe, and he lived in Canada. So he had like his own store there and stuff. But then his wife asked him to come
Right.
back to Ukraine because she didn't want to leave her mother in Ukraine. And he was asking her to
Right.
come to Canada, but he listened to her. He came back to Ukraine, and all the money he earned in Canada, he sold his store and everything, and he built like a mill for food processing, like grains and stuff. He rebuilt the whole village, and everything was going fine. But then the communists came, and they had obviously in the communist era you couldn't have any private property, so they took it all away from him, and then they killed him. So this sort of things Ukrainians had to deal with for a long time, So it's something that we were aware of a possibility of this,
While growing up, when you were amongst your friends and amongst people your age, would you have conversations about the war or about what might happen, or would you go about not ignoring it but living your life as the day comes by? Does that make sense?
So I would say we were exposed to this on football games of all things, because these slogans that you hear right now, you probably heard Slava Ukraini. Yeah. So these slogans were first a thing during football games. We have like these ultras fans, those are the most dedicated fans that always stand right behind the goal. So they would scream this to the fans and we would respond back to them. And so this was like the first experience. And with my friends, I mean, once the war started, not a single friend of mine or not a single person I know was on the Russian side, you know, at least where I come from. And obviously we stood together and we agreed on these things. We always had heated discussions how to deal with it, because obviously we have different views. Some people are more radical, some people are more liberal. But I would say we all agree on that.
I mean, you have also mentioned how you have escaped, and I wanted to know how your mindset was the night before, and what were you thinking the night before you wanted to do this. And did you have a conversation about this to your dad? Because I asked you if you came with your family, but you came alone. You did this by yourself.
I will tell you all about it then. So I was preparing for it for about a month, and this escape was like a special operation in a way. So in Ukraine, every guy between the ages of 18 and 27 is supposed to serve in the military. And if you go to like a university, then you don't serve while you're studying. And part of the reason why I was working in Slovakia is to avoid military draft, because we do not have an option for just refusing to serve. You cannot say no. And if you do say no, it entails a criminal offense of 3 to 5 years in prison. So this was something I was preparing myself for. In my head, because I knew I was going to refuse. I knew I was never going to serve in the army, because I just stand for pacifism. I was kind of preparing myself for that. So I wanted to initially go through the forest into Slovakia, because this is like an unguarded area where you can just enter a country. And plus I speak Slovak a little bit. And then I realized that that's not a thing, because they disallow people to travel to these regions, because Ukraine knows that men want to escape, and this is something they guard. So instead, I was going to swim a river into Romania. But my friend from England, who's hosting me right now, his name is Daniel, he said to me, no, don't swim, like it's not safe. And that river is fast, and it's kind of wide as well. It's not a very tiny one. He's like, don't do that. So I was like, okay, let's find something else. So
Wait,
I found this.
Before we continue, I want to know, how did you meet him, Daniel?
Oh yeah, I met Danny basically I went on Twitch one day and he was playing Counter-Strike, and I just got Counter-Strike, and it was 2015, so 7 years back. And I was sorting by the lowest viewers, because I wanted to see who is like just some new person to meet with, who I can talk to and stuff. And he had like such a good quality, because all the other streamers had like bad microphone, bad audio, and he had like the perfect setup, camera, everything works fine. I'm like, why is no one watching this guy? So I befriended him and we started talking, and it was hard for me at the time, because my English was not perfect, but it grew with time, you know. But we got to know each other.
That is beautiful. What a nice story.
Beautiful.
Wow, who thought 7 years down the line you'll be living with
right?
him? But sorry, go on, continue.
Yeah, so I found this place where I could actually make my escape. It was a border with Hungary. It's like a little flat terrain, and there is a small, tiny river. So I decided to walk down to that place, and then from there on, I'll make my journey into Hungary. So on the day, I was preparing. I took a train to Lviv. It's like a large city in Western Ukraine. And from that city, I went down to the border with Hungary. And when I arrived in Lviv, they had an air alert, air raid. And that means that you're supposed to go to the shelter and not just be on the streets. But people in Ukraine actually don't always take it seriously. So they just go to the parks and stuff sometimes. Because you hear it 6 times a day, 7 times a day sometimes, and you hear it every day, you know, and it disrupts life. So basically every store has to close, and you're supposed to go to a shelter. You're not supposed.
So this happens every day, 6, 7 times a day?
Well, sometimes twice or 3 times a day, sometimes once a day. It depends on the week when they do it. We had a period in early September of about a week and a half with no sirens in my region. But then we had again, they started doing it like on a daily basis. So I arrived in Lviv, we had this air siren, and there's a police car driving. If you are on the streets, you need to show your documents to the police if they ask you. And I was a bit scared because they could have seen my backpack, like, what are you doing, what are you preparing for? Because, you know, I was trying to escape at the time. So I went to the park, and when you enter a park, it's a different scenario. People are just walking their dogs there. It's like,
Yeah.
nothing's going on. So I waited for the siren to be to finish, and then I went on the train because I had like a 3-hour layover. And I got on this train to go to the bordering village. And it goes like from one city to another on like this sort of route. And I leave like around here in like a random place.
Okay.
And never leaves.
Okay.
So when I was on the train, since I have long hair, it kind of helped me because I was looking like towards the window with my hair covering my face, so they wouldn't see I'm a guy going to this place. Because a lot of military guys were walking there. I had to, yeah. And we also have a curfew, so you cannot be outside between the hours of 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. Otherwise, they will ask you, what are you doing? Maybe you're a Russian spy and stuff like that. So this is another story, like another part of Ukraine that I don't really want to talk about because it's not really nice, but I feel like I have to mention. It's becoming really totalitarian in the way we handle things. Like police and government have like full control of things. And even though we agree that it's necessary, sometimes it goes too far, or some men, they take too much power into their own hands and they act out of selfishness. Like, for instance, I had a friend, he was escorting his girlfriend who was going to Kiev. I don't know why, she wanted to find some job or something. And she asked him to like record a TikTok of her on a train station before they leave. Like typical thing, you know. And he started doing it, and the police came to him and they're like, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to film military objects because a train station could be considered as an important thing. So they took him to question, and they wrote him like a letter notice to appear in the army, like a military office, to be enlisted. Yeah, so he had to do that. Luckily, he was not enlisted because they didn't need him at the time, but now he's on the register. That means that if they need him like in November, they can just call him up.
And he'll have to go.
He will have to go. If he refuses, he'll go to prison. Yeah. So those are the things we have to deal with, which are not nice and which need to be heard, because there is this thing called Geneva Conventions. You may have been aware of them. And they specifically state that as a civilian, if there is a war, no matter if you're a man or a woman, you should be entitled to the freedom of movement into safe areas. And Ukraine does not allow men to leave. That means that Ukraine goes against this article. Yeah, so I've heard our president talk about Geneva Conventions, how Russia is using munition that is banned by Geneva Conventions, but also Ukraine is not doing everything on its part that it's supposed to. Yeah.
Do you think
that's something worth mentioning?
This mindset is coming from a more Russian side of things?
I could actually see that. Yes, I mean personally. Not necessarily. I see there is a necessity in these things. We need to have more of a control because it's a war. You never know what's going on. And I see that from his point of view, they need as many men as they want to like fight. But there should be an option for those who don't want to fight, right? Plus, there's a lot of good that can be done. It's like some people just aren't meant for this, or they don't want to find themselves in this. You know. They wouldn't even be good soldiers if you force someone who doesn't want to fight to fight.
That is true. But I wanted to ask you, so now you're in the train in the story that you're telling us, but before you left, weren't you nervous? Weren't you anxious? Didn't you think about what could go wrong? Or you might...
I was kind of numb and empty inside because I knew that I have to do this, because this is my only chance. Because basically I applied to come to England, to come here to the United Kingdom. And this was supposed to be like they give you a visa for 3 years, which entitles you to work and study. You do it through a sponsor. So my friend was like a sponsor. He sent me all the documents. We did everything. And at that time, Ukraine allowed men to leave to study. So if you wanted to go and study, you could leave. That was the idea. I just wanted to study. And I applied early September and I got my approval early October, which is really fast, actually. I was surprised by that. And mid-September, our president disallowed men to leave to study. So I was stuck with a visa that was valid, but I wasn't allowed to leave by this visa, which is just, not nice. And he also got in contact with like the British authorities and asking them and stuff, and they just couldn't help with that. Because they said it's a Ukrainian side of things.
That was actually going to be what I was going to ask you is, once you made it to the UK,
Yeah.
I mean, were you stopped anywhere over there
Well,
as well? Was there a
that
lot
was the
of
simplest experience of my life, because I've traveled quite a lot, and sometimes you get weird questions. Like once I came to Belgium,
yeah?
why do you
Hmm.
come to Belgium? Like,
Right.
sorry, just. But this time it was so simple. I handed my passport. I say I'm a refugee, and he looks at my passport. He's like, "Off you go, mate."
Wow.
Yeah, it was 10 seconds most.
That was beautiful. Oh, thank
Yeah, it was
Wow.
God for a
beautiful. Yeah,
pleasant
I was
experience.
so
Yeah.
happy.
Good on that
I was
person.
so worried
Yeah.
inside, because even though I had everything intact,
Right.
yeah, it was still
Right.
scary.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, understandably so as
yeah,
well,
I
right?
was just gonna say, I understandably so. I mean, I'd be, I feel like, I mean, again, I don't want to put myself in your shoe, but I'm just saying, if I were to leave somewhere, I'd just die from inside and be so scared about the entire process. But you were telling us, you were telling us how you were in the train, and yeah, and then what happened?
Okay, so yeah, I'm in this train. This train takes about 6 or 7 hours. It's not far. It's only like 200 miles, but it goes around the mountains, so it's really slow. And I arrived in this village. It was 9 a.m., 9 p.m. Sorry, on a Sunday.
Hmm.
So I picked Sunday as the day where, in my head, the least soldiers would guard, because it's
Right.
a Sunday.
Mhm.
I arrived
Right.
there and I leave, and then I walk around the train station, and there are 3 villages I need to pass through. So I passed through all the 3 villages. It takes about an hour and a half,
Mhm.
and the last village has a
Mhm.
road that leads to the border,
Right.
and it's like a dirt road. It's not on the map, but it's on the satellite map. So I walk down this road all the way to the border, and I arrive at this fence, and to my surprise, it was electrocuted fence. So it was not just a normal fence. It had
Mm.
electricity running through it, like electric
Right.
current.
Right.
Mhm.
I was like, okay, that's not good. I don't think I
Yeah.
can make it. So
Mhm.
I started walking north, and all this time I'm on the phone with my friend who's hosting me here, Danny. And he's like, okay, don't worry about it. He's checking the maps and stuff. He's like, just go north. So I'm going north
Oh.
along the fence, which is to my left. So
Mhm.
then the fence is on my western side, west from me.
Mhm.
So I keep walking, I keep
Mhm.
walking. I hear this clicking sound from the fence that the electricity makes. And I did touch it with a stick and make the psh sounds, Like,
Whoa.
yeah. And it was about 2.5 meters tall, which is like, I don't know, in foot, not too good, maybe like 8 foot tall.
Mhm.
So I keep walking along this fence, and then suddenly I don't hear that sound anymore.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, that's weird, because it's all pitch black.
Mhm.
So I look to the left, I come close to the fence, and I notice that the fence is not electrocuted anymore. So my guess, either they turn it off and turn it on, or
Mhm.
that part was
Mm.
electrocuted and that
Right.
part wasn't.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's when I made my climb. I started climbing over 2.5 meter tall fence, and it had like this thing on the, like it was like this and then
Mhm.
like this. So I
Mhm.
pushed it on the other side and climbed all the way over it. My
Okay.
shoes were destroyed,
Okay.
my jacket was destroyed, and my jeans were like a little bit destroyed. But I made it to the other side, and I'm in the bushes. It's like thorny bushes. They planted these on purpose, I'm pretty sure. And I made like a 5 meter move, and it took me 5 minutes. And there was another fence, but I'm
Oh.
skinny, and that fence was just like with lines. So I
Oh.
opened it up and I went
Oh.
through it.
Okay.
Oh my
Oh.
God. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah, with my
Wow.
backpack as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then I started walking more west, and there was another dirt road. So
Mhm.
the border was still on my west. So I kept going down this road because my friend was telling me, just keep going, keep going. So I keep going, and then I go more to the left between like bushes, and there are like trails from different animals, like hawks or bears, just rabbits. Lots of nature, actually, lots of birds, sounds like moose, deers, and stuff. So I keep
Yeah.
going to the left, and then I arrive finally at the last dirt road, and it has like this little river that we were talking about, and the other side is
Mhm.
Hungary.
Mhm.
So I go down to see how the water is. Maybe I could swim it or something, or just go through it.
Right.
But it was very muddy. It was pitch black. It
Mhm.
was. I threw like a stick to hear the sound, and it was pretty white. And the mud, I thought I might
Right.
sink into it, and I didn't want to
Right.
get wet.
Mhm.
But luckily, I knew there was gonna be a bridge north from me, so I walked towards the bridge, and all this time Danny is like updating me. I'm sharing my location because he checked beforehand. He knew I was gonna get signal there, which is a good thing, to get signal. Yeah.
Hats
Uh,
off to Danny as well. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
honestly, he did everything like a special operation. Yeah. So there is a tower on my right. right by the bridge, and
Mhm.
I'm a bit scared,
Mhm.
but the tower was not lit up. It was just black. So I guess no one was there.
Mhm.
And the
Mm.
bridge itself has barbed wire at the front of it.
Right.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
you cannot just enter it.
Yeah.
But again, I'm skinny, so what
Right.
I did, I went through the barbed wire. It was not hard for me, but if someone was a bit more had more weight, I don't think they would do it. But it wasn't a hard one. Usually, like in the military, I was told recently, they put like a ladder on the barbed wire and it goes down, and then you can
Oh,
just
okay.
walk. So you
Oh,
can do it with a
right.
backpack, I think.
Mhm.
But what I
Right.
did, I put a backpack over the barbed wire and crawled through it myself. And then I'm walking
Wow.
on this bridge, and
Mhm.
on the end there is a large fence with a door. I tried to see if the door was open, it was closed, but I just climbed over it. It was 3 meters, maybe like 12 foot or something, but it
Mhm.
wasn't hard to
Mm.
climb. It was just like a regular fence, like any kid would climb that.
Yeah.
So here I am. I went over the river, but I'm still on the Ukrainian side. So now
Mhm.
the border is to my south. And
Right.
yeah,
Mm.
and I'm walking west. So I'm walking. And I know, because I checked beforehand, that there is a security checkpoint, like a border crossing that people do by foot. And this is a Ukrainian station. So I had to avoid it. It was like here. I was like here. And there is another one down there, but I didn't have to worry about that one because I was going in this direction. So I'm walking, and I know I need to go here, like south, and not reach
Mhm.
this place because they will seize me and stuff.
Right.
And I keep walking, and I check on the left where I can go, but it's so like very, very dense trees, bushes. You cannot just go in there.
Mm.
It's,
Mhm.
there's no way. So I keep
Right.
walking down this road, and I see another tower,
Mhm.
and like a watch
Mm.
point, guardian tower. And right below at the foot of it, there is an empty wine bottle. Now I don't know if someone was there or not, but maybe he was drunk.
Mm.
So
Right.
that
Oh.
was a bit lucky. And then I keep walking, and then I see a light coming from this border crossing, and I know I need to make my move now
Mhm.
because I need to
Right.
cross before I reach that point. So I check in these bushes. I keep crawling below, but I don't see anywhere where I can go. So I go back on the road, and in my head, I'm thinking I'll go a few more meters, maybe like 100, 200 meters, and then try to cross a bit less because I could see in the distance it was less dense on the left side. So I keep going, and this is the scariest part of my life, probably by now. I hear Ukrainian border guards walking towards me, and they're talking to one
Okay.
another. And my heart stopped a beat there for sure. So what I do is I slowly go
Mhm.
to the left and hide in these bushes. I lay down like with my
Yeah.
arms like on the back, and I
Right.
just wait. And I hear they're approaching me. And then I see a head of one of them just going past me, and they keep walking where I came from. But this is not even the scariest point. And then I hear that they went to this first place where I wanted to check where I can cross, and they went there and they started like searching around that area. And I hear a sound approaching me, but then the sound goes in the other direction where I came from. So I don't know, maybe they were
Ah.
looking for me. But as soon as the
Oh.
sound died, like they went further away from me, I hear like no sounds, only like bird chirp from time to time. And I realize that's my time to make a move. And these bushes, I look around where I am, and there are like 5 bushes. I crawl below them, and then I see the actual border. And
Right.
I'm like, wow, this is so lucky.
Oh.
Like, so the
Oh.
actual border, imagine a river that has no water, just like an embankment.
Right. Right. Mhm.
River without
Okay.
water, yeah.
Okay.
So I messaged Danny, like, I see the border now, like, what do I do? He's like, just walk in a fast, steady pace, don't run. I'm like, okay. So I did that. I walked, it was like maybe 150 meters, like, and then I reached like a Hungarian fence, which was very easy to climb. You just
Right.
like put your weight on the pole and
Mhm.
then leverage yourself over it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And then I walk, and then I see another fence, and this was the last fence.
Right.
And somebody like put it down on the ground and clipped it so you can go through it. So the last fence I didn't climb, I just
Nice.
went through it. Somebody else did it, and there was
Right.
like a path afterwards that would lead to the road. But I didn't take that path because I knew that from that road I could be seen from the Ukrainian point.
Oh yeah.
So instead, I went to the forest, and there's like a large forest, and it was like about 45 minutes that I walked in the forest until the road went curly, so I wouldn't be seen from
Wait,
the.
what time is it now? Now that in
So
the
this was like from 9:30 is when I arrived at the station in the evening.
Mhm.
About 11 is when I was at the border line. Around
Okay.
midnight was when I was making my move. So
Right.
right past
Whoa.
midnight, I have everything like
Mm.
in my conversation on WhatsApp. So it was like
Mhm.
about 1 a.m.,
Right.
1:30 a.m., midnight. So like Sunday to Monday.
You talk about this being a special operation. I feel like this could be a movie in itself.
Yeah,
Like,
many people have told me that.
yeah, I feel like your story could be a movie in itself.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
that
Now
is.
that you mention it, this
Yeah.
is one of the things I want to do here in England. I want to be like a movie director. I already spoke to the council and they gave me some like options where I could study.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah.
Wow,
So maybe
Whoa.
one day I'll
that's
put it.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, I also want to ask you about that. But before that, you said that you were at home with your dad.
Mhm.
And so did he come along, or did you have a conversation with him before?
So I did tell him that I was gonna do this, and like he kind of knew that I was doing it, but we didn't like wanna go into details. I didn't feel comfortable, so I just told him on the day that yeah, I'll be doing this, and he's like, "Okay, good luck." Hugged me. I almost cried, and yeah, because he's older. He's 53, and he
Mhm.
still cannot leave Ukraine because you can only leave if you're 60 or older.
Mhm.
And like he
Okay.
wasn't sure if he was gonna make it, but now we're thinking of how to get him over as well, because it's just getting
Mhm.
worse. Like right now,
Yeah.
as of today, I spoke to my friend in Ukraine, and he told me they only have electricity for 4 hours a day. And
Oh,
here
that's
in England,
harsh.
it's getting a bit cold, but not too cold. But in
Mhm.
Ukraine, it's already been snowing for over a week,
Mhm.
and
Right,
it's -6, I think, -7
Without
Celsius.
electricity.
Oh,
Yeah, without electricity. Yeah,
that's
so that's
yeah.
just not.
And were you able to contact your dad after reaching the UK? Does he know you're
Yeah,
safe
yeah,
and
yeah.
sound?
Like he still has data on his phone,
Mhm.
and his
Mhm.
phone has a good battery as well. So we keep in touch. We talk to one another.
Okay.
Yeah. So on that side, it's all good.
And what about your mother
So my
and
mom and my sister on the 25th of February, when I was trying to leave with them, they obviously were let through, and they went to Switzerland because a friend of mine, he was so nice enough for his with his family. They hosted my family for 2 months,
Oh.
3 months, and
Mhm.
after that, the Swiss government gave them their own apartment, so they have a place to stay in Switzerland.
Wow.
Because at the
Okay.
time, it was
That's
not
really good.
possible for them to even come to England because they
Right.
only had the family scheme.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Because Ukraine needs visa for
Okay.
UK, but we don't need visa for Switzerland. So yeah.
Ah,
Okay.
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 And now my sister, just want to mention that she was accepted at the University in Bern in Switzerland, and
Hey,
she can study
Oh
there. Yeah,
wow.
congrats to her. That's
Congrats
yeah.
to
that's
her as well.
beautiful.
I'm very happy for her.
Wow, well done to you guys, and well done to you for and your roommate. Now that he is your roommate, but
Mhm.
well done to
Mhm.
both of you for being able to do this. Because even imagining
Yeah,
it,
it's crazy
yeah,
pulling this
it's
off. Yeah.
scary. It's unreal. Do you look back on that day, the whole
Yeah,
journey?
I do. Once I had a nightmare. I was staying in a hostel in
Mhm.
Budapest in Hungary before I came to see my family in Switzerland.
Oh, so you
And
did see your family in Switzerland, then?
yeah,
Okay, so you
because
have
I crossed
that's
into
good.
Hungary, and then I
Mhm.
went to Slovakia. I was in Hungary for a few days, then I went to Slovakia to meet my friends for a few
Mhm.
days, and where I also did a podcast with a friend, but it's not
Nice.
out yet. But he invited me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And after that, I went to Switzerland and
Right.
spent a week with my family, and then I flew here.
It's just so much to take in, firstly, and the fact that you could pull this off. And you told us that you planned this over a month. And also about the planning
Yeah.
itself, was it just you and Danny who planned everything out?
I spoke to many friends of mine. I have friends all over the
Okay.
world.
Mhm.
Right.
Like when I was gonna cross into Romania, I wanted a friend of mine to come by car and
Right.
just pick me up on that
Mhm.
road where I was gonna exit
Oh,
because I would be
Mhm.
all wet and stuff. And
right.
then we checked
Right.
for like plane tickets for them
Right.
to fly there, but it was very
Mhm.
expensive to come
Mhm.
from Estonia. And my friend from Germany had to drive very far as well with
Right.
his car.
Right.
So I was thinking of different options and different possibilities, but this became like the one that sat in my head, you know. Because I also wanted to just cross into Poland because a lot of Ukrainians right now they are trying to do these sort of things, and you have these services that services you
Sort
pay
of.
someone
Okay. They
money
help
and they
you.
tell you where to
Right.
go, or
Oh,
you have like a
yeah.
guy who goes
Okay.
with you and they
Mhm.
know all the trails and stuff. But these are
Right.
scary because Polish border is very controlled by Ukrainian
Mhm.
forces because they are aware of this happening
Right.
every day.
Right.
Mhm.
So that was like an
Mm.
idea, but out of question. I was too worried for that.
So, I mean, to think about it, how many people do you know that know about the route that you took?
Maybe like maximum 10 people. If you want,
Oh.
I feel free like sharing with you the exact route. I can show you everything. I have some pictures on my phone as well
Yeah.
if you're
Wow.
interested.
Yeah.
About your friends. I mean,
Mhm.
this talks a lot about just friendship in general.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
kind of bonds you've made. So I think that's really cool. And okay, so with Danny, you met him on the internet.
Yeah,
What about
so
these other friends? Are they all
okay, so
internet friends?
my personality is very like I'm open-minded, I'm friendly, I can become friends with anybody. I've been told that many times. And when I was about 14, right when this war started in Ukraine, I didn't feel like very comfortable being outside and stuff, so I just decided to make friends online. Because also in my city, I
Right.
was like I was bullied and all the
Mm-hmm.
other things because I was
Mm-hmm.
different. I had longer hair before as well, and we
Right.
were a bit
I
more
think that's fucking
conservative.
cool, by the way. The fact that you can rock long hair, that's too cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
just decided to make friends online, and my English was terrible at the time. So I was just typing in Minecraft
Mhm.
on some servers. And
Right.
Wow.
I became friends with this guy from England. His
Mhm.
name was Alfred, and nicknamed Squally the Wally. And he was the first English person that I listened to. So he would
Mhm.
talk to me on Skype, and I would just listen to him and just respond like this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
okay.
after that, I gained confidence. And about a year later, approximately, I started talking in CS:GO because a friend from Netherlands bought me a game so I can play with my other friends as well. So I started talking to other like English people, and
Mhm.
just bit by bit, my English got
Wow,
better, and
that's
I
how
also
you've
started
picked
getting
up the
better
language.
grades. Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Right. Wow, that's amazing.
That
That's
is
Just
really
games,
beautiful.
yeah.
wow. I mean, now I feel bad about myself because in India I come from come from a state called Karnataka, and
Oh, okay, I know that one.
oh really? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. And I've lived there I think for 17 years. Or I
yeah.
think 17, 18 years now, and I still don't know the local language.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
Oh,
struggle to understand. I can't
but
speak a word.
you guys have so many languages. You are really, really cool in that
That's true.
regard. I
Yeah,
love
but
That's
that.
true.
I mean, but that's the thing though. I lived in a place for 17 years and I haven't picked the language. You've picked a foreign language talking to people, and I think
Yeah.
that's super cool.
Thank you.
So really well done on that.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask you. I mean, we had one of these questions listed that what is? I mean, for us, for someone who we have not been involved in a place where there is war happening. So, what's something that people don't think about or people don't comprehend that you do when you are in a
Okay.
About
situation
what?
like
Yeah.
that?
So I think it's a different mindset because I always try to reach the person I'm talking to explain to them the things we have to live through.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of
Mhm.
people, I would say, because we live in a modern age where communication is so simple and
Yeah.
easy.
Mm-hmm.
I think these days
Right.
wars are not as effective because of that. Like we can see easily what's happening in
Mhm.
Iran, and we can
Mm-hmm.
say that's wrong, and as well, like in other countries. And that's the beauty of internet. So I would say just be careful when you read information online because there is a lot of stuff that is sponsored by Russian trolls and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Or in any conflict,
Mhm.
you always have this side of the story
Anywhere.
and this
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, of
And
course. Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
noticed that you guys say that you're trying to see things from different perspectives. You don't have a certain opinion on
Mm-hmm.
just one thing.
Yep.
At the beginning, you
Yep.
said
Yep.
it. And that's really important. That's how I see things. Because when the war started, the first thing I was saying, like, I'm worried for my friend in Russia. I have one friend in Russia. I met him on CS:GO as well, playing Counter-Strike.
Right.
Okay.
And
Mm.
when the war started, believe it or not, he messaged me
Mm-hmm.
first. He asked me if everything is okay with me, with my family. And he
Right.
said him and his friends are against the war. He also
Right.
told me a
Mm-hmm.
little
Right.
story about some of his friends. They live in St. Petersburg. You probably know it's a large city. And they were stopped in a metro, and the police were taking their phones away from them, checking if they sent any messages on WhatsApp or Telegram or
Oh.
Instagram to their to their friends or relatives abroad. And if you
Right.
did have at least one message or anything in English as well, they would
Mhm.
take away you and your
Okay.
phone. And yeah, so
Oh.
they have to deal with that in
Wow.
Russia as well. So
Oh.
what they do now is they lock their phones, and if someone takes away their phone, like you can't unlock it. So they take away like the fingerprint lock, just use
Well,
the regular one. Yeah.
that is very smart.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was one girl, I don't know if you've heard, but her dad, he saw her Twitch stream and that she was saying against the war, like Russia's doing wrong things, they're killing civilians. And he saw her Twitch. He called police on her, on his own daughter. And they tried to break into her house, but she like locked her phone as well. So because they're not allowed to use Instagram now, so they have to use
Right.
VPN to access
Mm.
Instagram.
Right.
and she
Right.
turned off the VPN, and the police couldn't turn it on, and they
Oh.
didn't know how to check the messages.
Oh shit! But
Yeah.
I didn't know that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know it
Father.
was. Yeah.
Own
Yeah,
father,
that is-
yes. That is just.
I don't know what to say about that. But I mean, but talking about you did
Yep.
say that now you've been allowed to study here and you're going
Yeah.
to college. So we want to know what that's like. So what is your plan staying in the UK? What do you think you're going to do?
So I'm a very artistic person. I play a guitar, harmonica as well, and I always I used to play in a local theater in Ukraine, and always feel confident on the
Okay.
stage. I love interviews, so thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much for coming here. It's very brave to do this, so thank you so much for that.
And it's also really great that you're doing this. You have this like platform where people are free to express their thoughts. 'Cause
Yep.
this is really important, and it's like every single view matters. You never
Yep,
know who's gonna
yes,
watch it. Yeah. So I'm planning to do, like, I spoke to the council and they told me like I can do theater, I can do because I'm trying to do mostly film directing. I think if I can, I will get through there because they have like a Princess Trust, I think it's called, and it's like a 4-week training, and we'll see how it goes. But hopefully it will
Okay.
be film directing. If not, it will be something in theater or acting. And if not, maybe something with music as well, because that's very easy for me.
That is so exciting, and that is beautiful. That the fact that you can express yourself artistically. I mean, even
Yes.
Praatibh does. He used to play the piano, and he's a
Oh,
photographer, and
lot
he
of
also
piano, yeah.
writes. So he does a lot more than. I mean, he's an engineer.
Ashwin himself writes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, right.
I don't
but-
know
it's
why.
really cool. I'm really happy to hear that you also write stuff. I also write poems, and I'm a big literature fan. So, and I write some songs as well. So we'll see, I guess.
Oh,
You know, maybe if you could send us a recording of one of
Sure.
your songs,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
you could
I'll
probably
send you. I'll
share it
send
with.
you. I'll
Yeah,
send
that'd
you.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Yes, that would be
Alright, sure.
super, super cool. I feel like we could talk forever. I feel like you're someone I really want to know. But this is how we end episodes for some
Alright.
reason. But are you a tea or a coffee person?
I'm a tea person.
Yes!
Oh,
That's really nice. Yay!
How
'Cause-
about you guys?
oh, tea, all day tea. I mean, we've had a lot
Tea.
of guests. I think we've had 70 odd guests, and they all root for
Yep.
coffee. And
Really?
we've been looking for that one sole person who likes tea. So
You know, I will agree with you. Most of the people I meet, they say coffee too. And
Yeah,
it
exactly.
surprises me.
oh, surprises me too. But yes,
I just had today, I had some green tea. Yesterday, I had some white tea. And I had, for
Oh,
the
nice.
first time, no, sorry, for the second time, I had the Indian spice tea. I had one
Oh.
brewed for me by an
Right.
Indian guy in Slovakia. And ever since, I could not forget
That's
the
nice.
taste. It's so good.
it
So, yeah.
is really nice. See, oh,
That's
thank you.
I'll make
amazing,
myself one right after this episode.
Yes, yes. Oh, it's been a
Awesome. Go for
blessing
it.
talking to you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
First of all, well done to you for being brave to go through all of that in your home country, and for the fact that you could decide for yourself and come to the UK and start almost like a second chapter of your life.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully one day you do get to go back home and you do get
Yes.
to live peacefully
That
like
would be
the way you
nice.
do here back home. So
Thank you
Yeah.
very much, guys.
thank you so
You've
much.
You've been so nice.
Thank you so much, guys.
You've been
Like,
awesome,
share, and
man.
subscribe, all that good
Yeah.
stuff. But go check him out. We'll put all of his links in the description below. Listen to his story and try
Yep.
exploring more stories of people who go through this, and try understanding what they go through so that you can help in one way or the other. So yeah, thank you so much for watching.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yo, thanks for tuning into the latest episode of Just Batein. We hope you enjoyed it and that it left you inspired. Thanks for all your support, and maybe you could support us just a little more by maybe going to our Instagram and Twitter and giving us a follow there. And also you can listen to us on all podcasting platforms, right from Spotify to Apple Podcasts to Google Podcasts. Cheers.